Man, y'all aren't messing around this morning. Everybody's already in the chat. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to see you. I see Jamie Wilbanks. I see Sergeant Major, Your Majesty. I see Megan. Hey, Jamie and Megan. I hope y'all are sitting across from the coffee table together, watching separately on your phones. David Austin. No shit. How are you, brother? I haven't seen you in a hot minute. Steve's with us, and the other Steve's with us. We've got both Steves in the house. And Dad says, "Did you sleep in?" Oh, yeah, I got up at like 6:30. No, 6. I think 6. So, late start, but not too bad. So, we have some development in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And this is a case that we should all be watching carefully. It's a case that we should be watching carefully because the Kyle Rittenhouse case is probably the most clear-cut case of self-defense that we have had real, significant active evidence for the argument of self-defense. Right? Just quick summary. Kyle Rittenhouse, 17-year-old kid. He's armed lawfully, because it's a long gun, in Wisconsin, with an AR-15 style rifle. He is present for the expressed purpose of helping with the cleanup after the BLM terrorists went through and defaced property.
Fiery, but mostly peaceful.
In the midst of a summer with an epidemic of arson committed by these related terrorist groups, and of course, I mean the BLM movement, the Antifa movement, and the Democrat National Committee. And yes, I did just suggest that the Democrat political party, they're active state sponsors of American homegrown terrorism.
Well, they at least bail you out if you...
There it is. That's not an opinion. That is a statement of immutable fact. Kamala Harris, the spit roasting chief, actively campaigned to raise money to be used in the active affirmative support and defense of BLM terrorists who were incarcerated on charges ranging from public disturbance all the way up to murder and arson. So Kyle was not the only one in Kenosha that night who was there with the intent of cleaning up after the terrorists that had gone through and defaced the properties around the city, but also of just standing guard and defending businesses. In his case, a gas station owned by a local property owner. And remember, in the weeks before this, not only did we see a rash of arsons across the country committed by these terrorists, but specifically, and this gas station was next door to a car dealership, specifically we were seeing cases where BLM activists and Antifa rioters were going to used and new car lots and just smashing all the windows out of all the cars on the lot. That's huge damage. So something that I want everybody to understand before we get too far down the rabbit hole too far down the topic itself. When you talk about these people going to stand in defense of these properties, you need to understand that property insurance, the insurance that you carry on your business property, almost always excludes damages caused by arson or riots. It's very difficult. This is a thing we did, right? Cameron and I just happened to both have held state licenses as insurance agents. I ran a brokerage quite happily for several years. When you're writing policies on businesses, it is often very difficult, to say the least, or at least expensive,
yes,
to add riders to cover riot and arson. Part of that, with the arson side, part of that is arson is just like the most obvious way to commit insurance fraud when you're talking about property insurance.
Well, it's the same reason why suicide's often excluded on life insurance policies.
Right.
Yeah, sure, I'm going to go take out $1 million policy, make a single payment, and then blow my brains out and make my family rich. That's not good business for the insurance company.
Ooh, you know what kind of life insurance policies usually don't carry a suicide exclusion?
No, I don't.
Valued asset personal policies. So, let's say suddenly your video work is making me $1 million a year. I can take out a policy on you. If you leave my employ, I can keep that policy because all I needed was an articulable interest in you to take out the policy. So, like, say you're suddenly worth $1 million a year to me, and I take out $1 million life insurance policy on you, and then for whatever reason I fire you, I can keep that policy. And suicide is not going to prevent me from collecting on that policy. And, okay, now I'm getting a little nerdy on the insurance thing. Okay, I'll be with you in a minute there, Dad. Another interesting fact about those high-value asset personal insurance policies: I can sell it.
Yeah, that's not a conflict of interest at all.
It's not.
However,
the policy exists and is paid for. I can sell it. I can sell it to a person who has no legitimate interest in your life at all. I can just sell it. Yep. So, so Kyle, when the incident began, Kyle is basically standing guard near this gas station, and these BLM terrorists. It's a gas station. They lit a dumpster on fire and were pushing the flaming dumpster toward the gas pumps at a gas station. And the thing that Rittenhouse did that initiated the attacks that threatened his life and justified his use of deadly force, the terrible, terrible thing he did to incite the ire, rage, and retribution of these terrorists was to run out to that dumpster with a fire extinguisher and attempt to prevent the explosion of the gas station. And then somebody else fired a shot. I forget that guy's name, and I'm not going to bother to look it up, but somebody else fired a shot as Rittenhouse was putting out the fire. Now, people were screaming, "I'm going to kill you, I'm going to hurt you," all this stuff at Rittenhouse as he's putting out the fire. And then somebody fired a shot, and the first consumer of justice, I think we've got the names listed here, but I forget what order they happened in. But the first one I think it was Rosenbaum that was the first one that attacked him. So somebody fired a shot, and then Rosenbaum charged at him and tried to grab Kyle's rifle, and Kyle ended him.
Yeah, don't let violent terrorists disarm you.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a habit of it. Hey, if a violent terrorist tries to take my weapon, I'm at least going to give him a muzzle stamp. I've seen me do it.
Deliver to care of the Taliban.
God, these dudes would walk up to you, right? You're standing there just minding your own business, helping them clean up their you're paying them Obama bucks to clean up the shit that they throw on their own street. And they come up and they start talking to you in their gibberish frickin' spaghetti language, and reaches up and he starts putting his finger on my ACOG, on my Army Combat Optical Gun Sight. I'm like, dude, I can't have your nasty fingerprints on my gun sight. It's just not an option. So, at that point, Rittenhouse runs, and his first maneuver is to try and run to the police. Okay, Steve points out Rosenbaum was the one he domed first when he got chased into the group of cars. The video where the item was thrown. Yes. And Oh God, I've got some articles pulled up. We're going to go through how the left is trying to spin this. And hey, look, I'll be fair. I am trying to spin this positive for Rittenhouse. I think, however, it's very difficult to argue that my spin is one that is entirely politically motivated. I think the facts in this case are pretty clear. These people were terrorists. They were in the middle of conducting a riot. They attacked this boy with the explicitly expressed intent to cause his death. And he was forced to defend himself. So as he moves through the situation, he's attacked by somebody else, knocked to the ground and hit in the head with a skateboard. He greased that dude, and then the third guy came up on him with a handgun in his hand, and Kyle shot him, basically obliterating his bicep. Now what we do have is the one that survived with the obliterated bicep has been in an interview. He said that if he could do anything differently, he would have killed Kyle soon. He would have just killed Kyle immediately.
As it stands, though, he needs help opening his ketchup bottles for the rest of his life.
Good. Because he straight up said that he wished he could have killed Kyle. And he doesn't have, all he's got is Kyle doesn't support him politically. So he just wishes. Okay. Now, we call him we call it the Kenosha hat trick because Kyle didn't just grease three guys, right? And these guys weren't just terrorists. All three of them had active criminal records, and I think two of them were on the sex offender registry for various sexual assaults, one including children. I want you to think about what it means that if you go to a Democrat rally and shoot three random people, you have a high degree of likelihood that they will be
shooting felons.
That they will be criminals.
Yeah. In fact, at least 1 in 3 is a kitty diddling felon.
So let me bring that around to something we've talked about in the past on this show. The thing that makes a person a real criminal and the thing that makes a person capable of being a Democrat are the same moral deficiency. It means that at your moral core, you are morally comfortable. Nay, you find it morally preferable to deprive another person by threat or use of force to your own profit. It's that simple. You can justify threatening or causing someone else's death for profit. For example, a graduated progressive tax scheme.
It's funny, and these people always bitch about how the rich, they've got all the loopholes, and I'm like, you guys wrote the system that gave the rich the loopholes.
Oh, we're not even gonna get into AOC's dress today, or the dress designer that's got
that owes like
$100,000
in back taxes,
hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes, mostly related to not paying employee taxes or property taxes. Yeah, tax the rich. Bitch, you bought a $2 million house last week.
Anyhow, but back to the reigning champion of fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's Kyle, the 2020 world champion of...
Yes, Kyle Rittenhouse is the poster child for the scientific method.
I see what you did there.
I should hope so.
I see what you did there.
I need you to be smart enough to have a conversation with me, or we can't keep doing the show. So.
And just...
I know it's early. It's first cup of coffee.
Second, but... Because I got up at 6:30 as well. And anyhow, and I don't want to go too far down this, but it at least needs to be addressed. You could actually make a reasonable argument that process of elimination. Good job, Steve. Oh. Anyhow, doing all this stuff where we're going to bring up the racist element and the Proud Boys and all that, which is all stuff we're about to get into because it's important. It distracts from the fact that you could have a reasonable conversation that says it was dumb for Kyle to be there. For example, have you stuck your hand in a beehive lately?
I have not.
Exactly. And you could make the argument that what Kyle was doing was he was a 17-year-old boy who just didn't understand the trouble he was going to get into, and
right.
He effectively stuck his hand in a beehive. But instead, trying to turn this into something where these monsters are the victims, and this is all somehow tied together with racial justice and everything else, actually distracts from a reasonable conversation that could be had if Kyle should have even been there in the first place. So there's that. Democrats support stabbing in Micaiah.
Yeah, let's pull that up real quick because I want you to remember. I want you to remember the people that we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
without trying to pull up all the Twitter nonsense about it. Remember, the people who are saying that Kyle did something wrong are the same people who, after the death of Micaiah Bryant, she was that great big old fat kid, that 16-year-old girl who was shot by a police officer while actively attempting to stab another girl. In fact, I don't even like to use the word attempting to stab. She was stabbing the other girl, as in the process, and just happened to be executed before the knife entered the other girl. To be very, very clear, had the officer not shot Micaiah Bryant, the other girl, whose name nobody knows because Micaiah Bryant became the victim celeb as a result, had that officer not shot her and killed her right there, then she would have, not an opinion, immutable fact, basic physics, stabbed the other girl. And the reasonable expectation, guys, knife wounds are nasty, right? I'm telling you right now that if you have not had any experience with the pair, I guarantee you that if you had been stabbed and you had been shot, and then you were told one day that you needed to make a choice between being stabbed and being shot, you would, hands down, take shot over stabbed. You know, I mean, excluding like a 50 cal round or something. Hey, my 50 cal round's missing. Anyway, excluding like, you know, a maul deuce to the shoulder, then...
And then you don't have a shoulder.
You'd rather be shot than stabbed, 9 times out of 10. But what was the defense? What was the defense of Micaiah Bryant from the people who think that Rittenhouse did something wrong?
She was just a kid?
No. It was, well, this is just normal behavior in this culture. Stabbing people.
Well, apparently it was normal. Wasn't her dad in the background of the video stomping somebody else in the face?
So...
Like, I've been in fights, but I don't think I've ever actually stomped anybody in the face. Like, that's, it's pretty extreme.
It is. Trish says, I picked neither. Oh, yeah. Please believe, Trish, if I'm faced with the choice between being shot and being stabbed, my choice is to open fire.
Is there an option C?
That's why we have a Second Amendment. Speaking of Kyle Rittenhouse and absolutely perfectly justified self-defense...
All right. We're coming up on time. Yeah.
Okay. So, having relitigated the question, let's do this. We're taking it from CNN today. Judge denies admission of evidence allegedly connecting Kyle Rittenhouse to Proud Boys. So that headline, that's a reasonable headline. But the article is, we're going to get into this article a little bit in a second. The article is trash. And I've got a couple of articles pulled up here. We'll see how many of them we can dig into a bit. But A judge in Wisconsin sided with defense attorneys Friday and denied motions filed by prosecutors seeking to admit evidence at trial showing Kyle Rittenhouse's involvement in a previous fight and his alleged association with the Proud Boys. Okay. I am comfortable with evidence of repeat offender conduct being used to prove the intent of a criminal. For example, I think it's an absolute miscarriage of justice that in the case of Ahmaud Arbery, the evidence of his previous record, which shows that he made a habit, it was his modus operandi to pretend to be jogging and to use that as a cover to rob houses. He had been arrested for doing that on several previous occasions, and that evidence is being suppressed in that case. So that evidence is being suppressed in that case supports the decision of this judge to suppress this evidence in this case. But to call this evidence is a sham. So among their multiple motions filed, prosecutors were hoping to admit evidence Rittenhouse had an association with the Proud Boys, a group linked to political violence. Before we get down that road, let me show you this. Okay, so this is heavy.com. Bunch of commie lefties. Kyle Rittenhouse named as accused shooter. This is an older article, right? From August 27th.
Last year.
Of last year, yeah. So Rittenhouse, NAR supporter.
Hey, Dad. We had somebody pop up in the chat there.
Yeah, see. Hey, Scott. Good morning, brother. Good morning. Welcome to the show. It's Route 23. Court records of the case filed electronically. I read this article a little while ago, and it's not a very long article. Where is it? Maybe it's confirmed. It's not this one. It's this one. WTTW. So, Illinois authorities extradite Kyle Rittenhouse to Wisconsin. By the way, Rittenhouse went straight to the police and tried to turn himself in at the scene. And the police told him they were too busy to deal with a murder or a self-defense case. And so Kyle went home, went to bed, and then went back to the police the next morning and turned himself in.
How busy are you when arson and multiple shootings they don't reach the bar? It's almost like there's full-scale riots going on, and people that are willing to tell you the truth they're not even on your radar at that point.
Steve points out Omar Jimenez, all he writes is trash. Yes, 100% correct. But in this article, they actually refer to the hate charges, or the hate group. They refer to the Proud Boys as a hate group, which is just asinine. Right, and they even talk about the OK. So we'll get to that here. In January, specifically in regard to January 2021, months after the Kenosha shooting, when Rittenhouse went to a local bar with his mother about 90 minutes after his arraignment, Rittenhouse posed for pictures with individuals seen flashing the OK sign, which the prosecutors are arguing has been co-opted as a sign of white power by known white supremacist groups. I brought this up from the ADL. What do we know about the ADL? The Anti-Defamation League? This is a notorious left-wing friendly anti-right organization.
Oh, I thought there was something else to know about them.
No.
Okay.
There's nothing else worth knowing about them. But it's important to understand that these guys, the ADL are not your friends. And so I brought this up from the ADL. Now, this is from 2018. For one, this bullshit about the OK sign and the white power sign, this is old news. That you're still arguing this as part of your political contraband and propaganda is laughable. So the prosecutors in this case clearly have nothing. They're trying to associate him with with other criminal activity and with groups.
Well, I actually think that it's even worse than that, because as soon as you call somebody a racist, because really this is going to go to trial, right?
Yeah.
And you have to deal with the emotions of the jury.
Right.
And if you can get the jury in an emotional frame of mind where, okay, this kid was a white supremacist looking for a darky to hunt down, buddy, he's guilty. He's spending 50 years in prison.
Of course, he killed 3 white boys.
Well, there's that little tiny detail, but that's probably not going to be the focus of the prosecution. And
no, it's not.
And look, this is just the way our criminal justice system works. It sucks, but it's still probably the best one that's ever been created, conceptualized. So, take it for what it is. But the prosecution is admitting that they don't feel like they can win the case on the facts. That they don't actually have enough evidence that Rittenhouse committed murder or intentionally committed homicide or whatever. So they're trying to bring in these other things that are an emotional component. And look, his defense is going to do the same thing. They're going to portray him as a good little 17-year-old boy who got in over his head and he never wanted to hurt a fly. That's part of how the game is going to be played. But, like, for example, like the BTK killer. Okay, when it came time to prosecute the BTK killer, they had mountains of evidence. They didn't need to bring in an emotional component.
Correct.
They were able to lock that guy up for life on the evidence. Whenever you start to bring in the emotional component, that's when you know that there's something lacking in the evidence. And the fact that now they can't bring in this emotional component, well, I'd say that's good news for Kyle.
It's like Robert Barnes says, when you have the facts, pound the facts. When you have the law, pound the law. When you don't have either, pound the table. Right? If you cannot make your argument on facts and law, then you make it on emotions. You pound the table.
Which you say is you pound the table.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it's not lost on me. St. Michael of Cigarillo says Kyle is going to prison. I hate to say it, but you're probably right.
And he even points out the exact reason why.
The Chauvin trial already showed us how justice works in America works, and that's what I was about to say is it wouldn't be the American justice system if the prosecution and the Democrat-controlled national media structure wasn't going out of their way to corrupt and taint a jury pool before a trial commences. Honestly, CNN should be facing charges over this article for jury tampering. CNN and Omar Jimenez should be charged with the crime of intentional jury tampering over this article right here. We don't need to read the article so much. We could see how the OK symbol became a popular trolling gesture. This is the ADL. The ADL is not your friend. But even the ADL has to admit that this is a 4chan hoax, right? The whole idea of the white power symbol being, the OK hand gesture being a white power symbol, comes from a 4chan hoax. 4chan is a anonymous posting board, and they decided to make this, right, to pretend like this is a hate symbol that white supremacists used explicitly to get the media to react and overblow it. And they even say in it, leftists have dug so deep down into their lunacy, we must force them to dig more until the rest of society ain't going anywhere near that shit.
Introducing right. Operation OKKK.
Yep.
That's funny. That's
just like the I wouldn't call it a hoax so much. It was more like more of a media blitz campaign, but the It's Okay to Be White campaign that happened year before last, where they just went and hung up. It was a plain white piece of paper with black block letters typed across the middle of it that said "It's okay to be white," and they just hung them up on college campuses, and it was reported. It was reported widely by the mainstream media as a white supremacist maneuver. I'm like, but is it not okay to be white? Should I be ashamed of my whiteness? Oh wait, yes, that is the narrative, isn't it? What do you know? So
we have all the privilege, and we refuse to share it, and we're so insulated in our own privilege, we don't recognize the fact that we have privilege, and therefore need to spend the rest of our life as recalcitrant and penitent and apologize for our privilege.
So yeah, this CNN article, this guy's going out of his way to do the thing that the judge told the prosecution that they're not allowed to do, and that is to make the jury believe that this kid is part of the KKK by pretending that the Proud Boys are the same thing as the KKK. And I can tell you this about the Proud Boys. I'm not a member of any groups really, but I've interviewed some Proud Boys. I've talked to a few of them, and there's a big difference between the Proud Boys and the KKK. One, the KKK are a bunch of Democrats.
And the Proud Boys have got more than like 12 members per county.
Not much, but yes. And the Proud Boys know how to throw a party, man. A couple of kegs of beer, big table full of liquor, pulled pork, barbecue, live music, and cage fights. And I do love me a cage fight.
We're coming up on time. Can we get down and actually see the actual quotes here?
So the judge, so the defense attorney says there's no information Mr. Rittenhouse knew who they were, referring to the people he posed within the bar. For this to be considered by you, Judge Schrober, there must be evidence that on August 25th, 2020, Kyle Rittenhouse was either a member of the Proud Boys or had loyalties to that group. And even that, I think, is a little bit of a reach. The Kenosha County judge agreed with the defense. For me to let that in as evidence for a motive that existed 4 months earlier, can't see it. There's still no suggestion in the evidence that this was anything other than a happenstance occurrence. So basically the judge has said, no prosecution, you're not allowed to pull a Chauvin on this kid. You're not allowed to go out and tell the world that this kid is the evilest evil since Hitler, and he obviously sleeps in a white hood and yada 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 yada. St. Michael says they do have one thing in common, though. Both groups are heavily populated by the FBI. Yes.
We did a show about that just a few days ago.
Yeah, we just did a show about the glow sticks.
The old joke is that if you show up to a KK rally, odds are 4 out of 5 people there are feds or FBI informants.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much an old joke, Michael. I think it's
just true.
Just an interesting fact. I mean, if you want to get yourself a quick interview with the FBI, go anywhere. God, it's beyond time to abolish the FBI.
So, just to put a button on it, while this is good news for Kyle, I do think that there's a good chance that St. Michael of Sigurdio in the comments is correct. This kid's still in deep shit. He's probably still looking at decades in prison. I mean, I think the fact that Chauvin was clearly overcharged and was found guilty of everything, it does not bode well.
No, it doesn't.
Now, the one thing that Kyle is going to have going for him is there's no video evidence of a white guy hurting a black guy. Well, I mean, it's true, because that video is what got Chauvin cooked. People saw that video,
yep,
and they made a decision before they knew the facts about the case. He doesn't have that. But outside of that, man, he's in deep shit. But this is still a good thing. Like, his defense did their job, and the judge reached the correct decision, saying, "Look, we can't retroactively apply motive. That's not how motive works, y'all."
Correct. Yeah, because I mean, what the prosecution's trying to do here is they looked at their case and they said, "Hey, we don't have a motive here. We better make one up." And
then what you got to understand, just knowing what you know about the Proud Boys, if you understand what they really are, they're a bunch of cheeky bastards.
They are.
Right? What they did is they said, "Holy shit, Kyle Rittenhouse is getting out of jail. Wouldn't it be great if we just went and took him to a bar? God, CNN would shit their pants." And the other Proud Boys went, "Yes, let's do that. It'll be great."
Well, and in fairness, the Proud Boys are one of those groups who have also, a lot of Proud Boys have given money to various like GoFundMe campaigns and things like that to free Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Kyle was out on bail, yeah, but Kyle's bail was $2 million.
Yeah.
I mean, so
what's 10% of $2 million? A lot.
A lot.
A house.
A nice house.
Yeah.
In fact, in Georgia, it's a lot of house.
Yeah, it is. As long as you move away from that big blue cancerous dot that is Atlanta.
So, don't forget, guys, Leftists for Cancer. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Firearms Friday tomorrow.
Yay!
Yay!